let's look ahead to the Leinster game. What did you learn about yourselves come full time and since you've analysed the game from that defeat?
Well, basically, that we've got to play better. I think, you know, you can dress things up in all kinds of ways. At the end of the day, we didn't play well enough to win the game. Not only did we make some unforced errors that obviously they happen because of the pressure of the game. You know, there's no point saying you can't leave Leinster out of the equation because they were hugely in it. You know, the way they played and the qualities they showed were part of the reason we were under pressure, and they're part of the reason we made some mistakes. That being said, we shouldn't really have made some of the unforced errors we made. And also, we were probably uncharacteristically lacking in a little bit of go and win the game type edge. It was there in patches, but it wasn't quite there enough. And I think the thing that disappointed me is when you look at the game in detail, there were quite a lot of areas where we were just a little bit disjointed and a little bit unfocused, and ultimately in a tight game, because it was a tight game, you know, with 20 minutes to go, or one score game, or, you know, a couple of points, that's a tight game, and that's a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, we are a team, and I know it sounds strange because we're a team that's been in 2 Premiership finals the last 2 years and won one of them. Actually, when it comes to these big European games, there are still elements that we have to learn, that it is different to a Premiership game. And actually, although our game plan on the day stood up very well, and you can see that because, you know, tactically and technically the score is pretty much there, actually our individual commitment to certain areas probably wasn't at the level it needed to be for us to actually ram home a victory. And that was easy for us to talk about. We've talked about it this week. It's not an easy fix because we're playing against a good side with good players. It takes a lot, you know, it's going to take a lot to win over Leinster, but it's not something that we're not capable of. You know, we're a good side with good individuals, and we think we can do a job.
And people often say if they don't get a job, they learn more about themselves for not getting the job, and if they lose or something goes wrong, they learn how to kind of refocus and those sorts of things. Could that be the same here from Exeter? You know, the fact you've had a defeat, that you've maybe been a bit disjointed, as you say, actually in some ways be almost more beneficial because you can look at how do you get even better.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, what we have had, you know, we've been able to sit down with individual players and go, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here? In the good and the bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all that, you know, look at all these mistakes you made. It doesn't work like that. There are, you know, there's a scenario here where you made a really good decision and you've done a really good input for us. A scenario here where it looks like you've got something on your mind, you're thinking too far ahead, you're not reacting quick enough. What are all the A, B's and C's that have meant this issue has happened? So we've had, just as we always do, you know, we'll take the good and we'll take the bad, and we'll always move on and look to be a better side for it. And that's kind of the biggest reason for us to drive as hard as we have done in all our time in the Premiership to be in the Champions Cup, or the Heineken Cup as it was, because these are the big games where you can really learn the most and learn the quickest. You know, we're not going to be a worse side for playing against Leinster here in front of a sellout crowd last week, and we're not going to be a worse side for going over to Ireland and playing against Leinster at the Aviva in front of a big crowd. We'll be a better side afterwards. The important thing is to make sure we're as good a side as we can be, you know, and take every single thing out of the game we can. And that bit I can deal with. I can deal with winning and losing. It's never a problem to me. And the one thing I said to the players after the game last weekend was that I was a little disappointed because I didn't think we played to our best. We didn't play to our individual or collective potential. I don't mind us losing. Good teams have beaten us. Poor teams have beaten us. You know, we've done all kinds of things in the time I've been here. But what you've got to be able to do is you've got to be able to move forward as quickly as you can after each game. And as I say, I think some of our individual contributions weren't high enough in the game against Leicester for us to really walk away and be satisfied with what we contributed.
How much pressure is there on this game now? Because a victory and you're back really fighting to be top of the pile, a defeat and conceivably if results go against you, you could be third in the group. The
pressure is what we want it to be. You know, if we want to be, you know, if the players are sitting there and talking to themselves over the next couple of days and go, well, actually, we want to definitely progress in this competition. We want to fight all the way to the end. Then there's a fair bit of pressure on us because we need to get some points. If we're kind of going, well, you know, it's more about the Premiership and I don't know if we're ready for Europe, you know, then there's not a lot of pressure on the game. The pressure is what we make it. You know, I'd like to think there's pressure on the game because we want to be successful in Europe. We want to push on, and it's something that we want to start achieving. But that's down to us. You know, the pressure that we put ourselves under will be down to us.
What's the feeling you get?
The feeling I get is that the boys want to get over there and play very well and want to get something out of the game and are desperate to keep showing what a good side they are. That's the feeling I get. But ultimately, you know, the first few minutes of the game will actually define how much we really want to go out there and win the game.
They have a very good home record, very, very similar to yourselves. And I think the last defeat was the semi-final in May. Before that, you have to go back to Toulon, pretty much at this stage of the Champions Cup the season before. It's a formidable place to go, isn't it?
Is it any more formidable than Montpellier? I think they had a very similar record at home when we went over there just this season in the European Cup. You know, those kind of things, I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but they only matter depending on your performance and if they affect you. As I said, the fact that Leinster are good there is not something that should affect our performance. We're expecting Leinster to be a very good side, playing very well there. It's a Champions Cup game. You know, we're not going over there expecting them to lie down and fall over. At the same time, you know, what will be will be. We've got to talk about ourselves and what we want to achieve and make sure we're driving our individual standards. If we do that, we give ourselves the best chance to win the game.